She doesn't even go here.
I'm bi, actually.
Excuse me. Could the ugly, untalented gays please report to the principal's office?
Hi, I'm Kurt Hummel, and I'll be auditioning for the role of kicker.
Hello! Welcome to Not So Straight Nerds. Thank you guys so much for coming in and having a chat with our innies today. I am your innie host, Luke.
And I'm your other any host, Alicia. Alicia G.
Oh, Luke T. Gas.
T. T. And that's the T.
And today we are talking about
Severance.
Severance.
Yes. Finally, we finished. We can move on to other amazing shows that have come out this year, one of which we're going to talk about next. But, yeah. We're excited to talk about this one.
We were, as soon as I think we started episode 1 of this show, I was already super excited to talk about it.
Yeah, it had a really strong start.
Yeah,
Very
so
strong
it's
start.
it was such a fun ride, and it was like because we heard so much about this show.
Yeah.
And so to go into season 1 and have it still completely blow at least me away was my experience. It was
me too.
It was such a fun ride, and to like just completely get it off the bat what all the hype was about.
I feel like this year is a good example of like what word of mouth can do for TV shows and movies. Hey. You almost shut her door.
She's
you
fine.
almost
She's
shut the
chilling.
door in
Roxy's
our manager's face.
She seems
And
undisturbed.
she just doesn't know what to do with that. Anyways, yeah. Between like Severance, Paradise, The Pit, and The Studio, and then you have movies
White
like
Lotus.
Sinners. Yeah, White Lotus. So yeah, word of mouth can do a lot, and it's been very powerful this year, and it's paid off this year. A lot of times, or not a lot of times, but sometimes word of mouth can be a little overhyped, and
Sure.
I don't know. I feel like we haven't run
Like
into
I
that
would say
yet.
Penguin was a good example of that. Like a lot of people were talking about
Which
how
one?
great that show was, but it did not perform exceptionally well.
Which one?
Penguin.
Penguin, right. And I mean, neither one of us even liked that show as much as other people, but they sure had a fan base, and it
Yeah.
it did fine.
But this is, and I don't
Yeah, this is way
know
different.
if Severance did super well viewership wise its first season.
I don't know.
But season 2, it's definitely
Yeah.
a big deal, especially
Yeah.
for Apple TV, which
Yeah.
is where you can watch it now.
Yeah. So, and it is worth it, especially like I think they do a lot of bundles, especially if you have an iPhone. I think if you like load an iTunes card, I want to say in the past I've gone like 3 months free for Apple, so Apple TV Plus. So I don't know if you happen to load an iTunes card, I guess look for that, or just do a free trial, or just it's cheap. It's like $5 or something. It's one of the cheapest.
It's definitely one of the cheapest, and a lot of people say it has some of the best shows
Yeah.
that streaming has to offer. And Severance alone is a great example of that.
Yeah. I think they have the Dickinson show with Haley Steinfeld, I want to say. That's really good. I watched... Oh, I forgot what it's called, but it has Brie Larson in it, and she's like a scientist.
Oh,
we were just talking
Lessons
about
in
it.
Chemistry.
Yes, we were just talking about it the other day. That was really good. She's great in that.
I know Ted
And
Lasso
Louis
was really
Pullman's in it, so... Bob.
I was going to say Ted Lasso was also really well received from
Yeah,
audiences.
I haven't seen that one,
I've
but
not
I've
watched
heard
it
it's
either.
good. So, check it out. It's worth it if you can do that. So, yeah.
So before we
What?
get further into talking about this awesome
Also,
show,
sorry if I sound weird because I have been a little sinusy the last few days, so I can't breathe very well in my nose. So I'm so sorry. I'm doing my best.
just
I'm
a
just
little guy.
trying to survive over here, Yeah. It's just allergies.
Sure.
Yeah.
Anyways, so that's her vibe check.
Stiff. Yeah.
My vibe check is I'm chilling. I'm excited to talk about this. I feel like my answer is always I'm excited.
Yeah.
I would really love for this to be an episode where people listen to it and are like, oh, I haven't watched that. I should
Yeah.
check this out. Because let me tell you, if you have not
Oh, it's so worth
watched
it.
this show, this is such a great show. The first season is such an easy binge.
Yeah.
Cause
And luckily you have you have season 2, because oh my gosh, if I had to wait 2 years to do that, I would not.
Yeah, there was a huge gap between season 1 and season 2, so it's very interesting. But I remember, and I'll get into it. that I feel like maybe we almost had a less enjoyable time with season 2 because we were able to jump straight into it.
Yeah.
So we'll get into more specifics in I guess a second. So
Yeah.
first we're gonna go a little non-spoiler with it.
Yeah.
I will say we're gonna start talking about season 1, and then season 2 non-spoiler. So for right now, let's talk about season 1.
Yeah.
So I
Let me
think
look at my episode list.
go for it. I think season 1 of Severance is almost like a perfect season.
I agree with that.
I rated that a 10 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is
It was
just...
so good.
Ugh.
Every single episode left you wanting more. It felt like, what could season 1, like the finale, possibly do to make you feel more of a cliffhanger than each episode? Because you're getting that each episode, and so it's like, what? How on earth are we gonna feel like worse than this? Like, oh my gosh, in like a wanting more kind of way.
Yeah, it has one of the best cliffhanger endings I've seen.
I agree. Yeah.
Oh,
And it makes sense. It's not just like we're going to end here for dramatic effect. Like it makes sense story-wise too. So it's a very good place to stop. So, yeah.
Yeah, and thank God they were able to keep going. I can't
Yeah.
imagine.
Oh my gosh. Imagine they just got one season.
I will say, I think maybe we jumped the gun a little bit. So, for those who are listening and watching who have not even
what
heard
is
of this show,
Severance?
what is Severance?
Do you want me to read the description?
I would love for you to read the description.
Okay. Let's see. Let me find it. Severance is an American sci-fi psychological thriller television series created by Dan Erickson. I guess that's how to say it. And executive producer and primarily directed by Ben Stiller,
Sure.
who's in the Nightmare of the Museum movies
Larry.
and the what are those other movies? Zoolander. Isn't that her? Yeah, that's great. Okay, so it has a lot of stars, but it also has a lot of new people. So I think that's fun. If you want to see who's in it, you should look it up. But it has some names in there. The series follows employees at the biotechnology corporation Lumen Industries that have undergone severance, a medical procedure that ensures they retain no memories of the outside world while at work and have no recollection of their job once they leave. This results in 2 distinct personalities for each employee: the innie, who exists solely with Lumen, which is why we refer to ourselves as innies, because we're like, quote unquote, at work, I guess.
In work.
Yeah.
And then the outies with their personality when they're outside living life.
Yeah. So that's very interesting. And there, within the show, it's controversial in the outside world on, are these procedures ethical,
Yeah.
basically. Even if the outside, even if the outie is choosing it, the innie's not choosing it, and even if the outie's doing it for good reasons, there is
and I
choice
think the lack of
lost
oversight
there.
with
Yeah.
the innie is one of the biggest things.
Yes, and what Lumen does and gets away with in that time, and how they take advantage of that not knowing from either side. They explore both sides. It's not just at work. So
Yeah, I love
very
one of the
interesting.
strongest parts of the show, I think, is the separate plots between, and
Yeah.
it's the same actor and it's the same body.
And props to them because they do such a good job.
Yes, 'cause
It doesn't even feel like
each
the same.
severed employee plays essentially 2 characters. We mostly follow the main character, Mark. He's Mark S. whenever he's his innie. He's Mark Scout as his outie. And they both come off as very different characters. But, like, you can still, like, see some of the similar threads from, like, just, the idea of, like, your soul underneath it all. They talk about, do they share the same soul? Are they different? They have a lot of really cool conversations.
Yeah.
And I love how horrifying it shows being an innie is, because you live in a basement your entire life. You never get to see the sun.
Yeah.
You never sleep. You literally just wake up and you're in the office ready to work.
And you hope your outie got sleep, or else you're gonna feel tired
and
for
you
the
don't
day.
know how long it's been since you've last been in. So it's all the way they show it with the actors and the way the camera work all goes. It's just so compelling.
I agree. They have this really cool effect that they do when they get in the elevator to go down towards their job. and they're having that little switch. It's very cool because it's like a kind of thing. Sorry for that noise for people who don't like that noise. I understand. I'm so sorry. I should have put a warning there because some people do not like that noise. But anyways, it really is. It's like a whoosh kind of thing. So yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah. And then I think there's also a really great element of you have the procedure so that no one outside of the company knows what you're working on. But then you see really early on that even the people who are severed, like their innies, still don't know what they're working on.
Nope.
So they're separate from all of the other like divisions working in the office, and you know, every division thinks they know some stuff, and it's like this whole mystery of what's going on, what are we actually doing here, why does this company want this to be this way, and then also both sides are so interested in learning about their counterparts. And it's really cool to see the ways that they kind of find out more about themselves and their other side. And it always is just it's always done so well. Even though we know what both sides are trying to figure out from like about each other, it's still really entertaining and fascinating to watch them learn about themselves.
It usually doesn't feel like we're watching the same thing happen twice, because they do a really good job at, like you said, having two different things going on that still connect, but it's like two different journeys to the same destination.
It almost reminds me of our conversation about the first couple episodes of Andor, where I was like, it feels like we're watching both sides try and figure out what the other side are doing, but we know the other side, so it feels unrewarding. This turns that on its head, because this show does it super successfully. Yeah,
I totally agree. I don't know. I really like it. I even feel like season 2, even though it wasn't perfect for me, it definitely had some downsides, but it's kind of like the White Lotus thing, where I still feel like overall I still feel really good about the season, and I still feel really good about the overall show. Very excited for season 3. That is official. It is greenlit. So I hope it doesn't take 3 more years, especially now that they know it's so huge. I hope they like invest in it to get it out a little sooner. It took about 3 years between seasons 1 and 2, so I'm hoping at least like maximum 2 years this time, but we'll see.
I would hope they're smart enough to keep it going.
I'll be there. I'll be there next time. So
but I will I don't know, I will say with season 2, I'll be there when it drops. But it's after the first season ended, I was like, I'm so glad I can watch the next episode, because I cannot imagine having to wait like less a day. 3 years? And then season 2 ends, and it feels like, well, I feel like if this was a binge, I could like stop and like come back to it in like a week and be like, okay, let's get back into this.
Yeah, it ends really weird, which we'll get to that and explain a little bit more of our thoughts on it. I don't know. And it was hard because neither one of us were a part of the conversation on the internet when the finale came out. And so it was hard to even like look up, Severance season 2 finale on Twitter, and people are freaking out saying, oh my gosh, this happened and this happened, but I'm not finding a lot of this was great or this was bad. I'm just seeing like this happened. So I don't know, I feel like I need to do a deep dive and like, what did other people think about this? Like,
I remember hearing that people really loved the finale.
I mean, it was crazy.
A lot happened,
and I feel like I really liked it until like the last 5 minutes, maybe, if that.
Yeah, it has a lot of momentum, but then even a lot of the stuff, I described it literally not like 10 minutes ago, where I was saying season 1 finale feels like it's opening the door to so much other stuff happening for this show, whereas it feels like the season finale of 2 seems to be shutting a lot of doors for some reason.
Yeah, and it maybe it won't, but it does seem like where do we go from here versus season 1 very much seemed like there's so much opportunity. And this is like, where are we going to go from here? And again, we'll talk about that more in the spoiler section, but
or even more literally, where are you going?
And that'll make sense later, but no, for real, where are you going? Did you think this through? You definitely didn't. What's gonna happen here? What did you think was gonna happen here? That's
it.
Yeah.
But I almost hate to talk about season 2, and I would even say the end of season 2, to like, with fear of maybe warring off someone who was like thinking about watching this show.
Oh no,
season
it's
1
still really good.
is like must-watch television.
Yes.
Like you.
It literally is like.
You need. I would go as far to say like. Everyone should watch the first season of Severance.
No, me too. I totally agree. And I don't know. I feel like it's the same with White Lotus, where I don't feel like they don't know where to go now. They just had a bad season finale. I feel like similar with this show, I still have enough faith in them that they are going to pick up the pieces and have somewhere to go. Mm-hmm. I just have no idea where that is, and I don't feel good about it.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels almost like they know. It feels to me like they know everything that they want to happen in the show. Mm-hmm. It just feels like maybe they didn't know a good place to divide season 2 and 3.
Yeah.
You know?
And and I fear that The Last of Us is going to do that too.
Yeah, a very relevant conversation.
Where are they going to split it? I'm actually very fascinated to find that out. But we also have not seen the new episode. We're going to watch it soon, hopefully, because I've heard it's good. I've heard some stuff on Twitter on it. I've heard like probably the most since the second episode. Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited. But anyways.
Let's see. The cast, I think, is incredible. I don't know if we've actually touched on that, but the cast is super strong, especially the main cast.
So strong. Do you want to go more into, like, the positive? Speaking of the cast, do you want to go more into, like, the positive?
Oh, sure,
stuff?
absolutely.
Yeah. Because, like you said, I don't want to, scare off any new viewers. Like, definitely watch the first season. Even, like, the second season overall is still pretty strong. Yeah. But this first season is, like, perfect television. It really is.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
So it's so fun. The directing is super interesting. Oh, and the set design.
Yeah.
I love the set design because the idea of that they're making this, office building.
My food. My cat's food.
Yup.
And she said, "I know what that is."
But the idea that you're building this like almost like maze labyrinth of office space for these people to essentially live out the entirety of their lives that they know of, and I think it feels very purposeful. It feels very bland, but with purpose. It's all very. Yeah. It's almost like it's very back rooms, which for those who don't know, it's like these familiar walls and textures that it feels like everyone's seen, and the idea is like. You just keep walking and the rooms keep growing and there's weird, suspicious monsters lurking around. And it has that vibe with the set, which is so cool. And then every now and then they discover a room or an office that just doesn't belong in an office building. And it's like, whoa.
You're like, what's going on here? And things change and... Like, it's just so good with the Easter eggs and adding little bits of information. The world building is very interesting.
Yes.
So. And, like, with the set design, it's so, in the work building, it's so, I don't know if dystopian's the right word, but it's so, like, clean. It's so, like,
I would say this is, I think
depressing,
it's we're also going to talk about
very
Paradise
visually,
pretty soon. These are both very dystopian.
Yeah.
Which, maybe
but in very different ways.
I wonder if dystopian's making a comeback.
I mean, it should, because there's so many things you can do with that. There's so many great dystopian books I've read that have not been adapted or haven't been adapted well. So, I don't know. I would love for it to have a resurgence and, then we get Sunrise on the Reaping next year. So I'm excited. I think that's next year. But
I believe so.
2026, like November, I think. But anyways.
Let me think. What else do they do really great here? The directing is really cool. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
I love the way that these characters experience coming in and out of their consciousness. There's an amazing scene where one of the innies is constantly trying to leave and they just keep like walking out a door and then the next thing they know they're walking back in the door and the way they do that whole scene is just so cool. I also think it's really interesting that they give you the rundown of the severed floor through the experience of a new severed employee.
Yep.
Where you wake up on a table and you know nothing about who you are, where you are, what your name is, and just literally you're being like handed, hey, you used to be a person. That person wanted you down here to do work for them, so and they won't remember it.
Yeah.
Here's what your life is now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's...
And you don't get a choice, and
Yeah.
you have to accept that, basically. I mean, they technically say you can, like,
It's the
request
illusion of choice. And
yeah.
it's also a great point where it's like, oh, so you're telling me you're gonna go talk to my Audi about this thing I want to talk to them about, but how am I supposed to know that you're doing that? And I love that element throughout the whole show.
They do that really well. They have that, like, battle of trust, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes your Audis are nicer than other Audis, and vice versa. So
Yeah, a lot of the times, there's a lot of the cast you don't know who their Audi is, or like anything about their Audi throughout most of the show.
Season 1, yeah.
And you start learning a little bit about them later on. But especially, like, almost every reveal that they did in season 1 hit really hard about, like, oh my gosh.
That's who they are?
And
That's
it's like
how they
every
are?
little sprinkle of, like, oh my gosh, that's a big thing that you now know.
Yeah.
And it's,
they do that really
so
well.
good.
Little snippets of information and character building and world building. They do that really well. And they differentiate each character's any. It really does feel like you have 8 main characters here with their, because you have 4 people in the office. So you have their innies and their outies. But it feels so, which season 1, they don't develop the outies of 3 of them very much. But it still just feels very different. And I love that.
Yeah.
And then, they have, like, the occasional side character. And they're interesting, too.
For
You have the bad guys. They're interesting, too. It's like everybody is their own person, and I want to know everything about everybody. And that's fascinating. I was looking at the cast list, and I was like, wow. This is a killer cast. Really killer cast.
Yeah, and I love seeing these people be so good here. I'm excited to see... Like, Milchek is a character in this show, and we're seeing him in the next Mission Impossible movie.
Yeah.
I'd love to see more of this cast. Adam Scott's a classic. So...
Miss Cobell, which is one of the, like, quote-unquote leaders, I guess, of this show. I watched... The other day, I watched the Holes movie for the first time, and she is... Oh, what is it? Killer Kissing Kate or Kissing Killer Kate or something like that. She's the one that in the flashbacks she goes around and she kills people who have done her wrong or get in her way or blah blah blah, and then she has, like, red lipstick and she kisses them on, like, the forehead or something, like, as to leave her mark that it's her. And I was like, I know that lady, because she has very unique teeth, and I love that for her, because I love when people have things that make them unique, because it's so beautiful. Like, she has some great teeth, and it's like, I was like, I know that lady's teeth. Oh my gosh, this is Miss Cobell. I love that for her. She's a lot younger in that one, but at least for the first season, I feel like she does some good work here. Second season, we'll talk about that. But
I will say, I talked about it. Adam Scott is our main character who plays Mark. He is so good. And I think another thing that I love about this show is that I can so easily see this show becoming, like, the people trying to figure out what's happening in the office building has such a, like, niche aesthetic to it, and, like, I can so easily see myself being, I like being here. I don't really care what's happening out there.
Yeah.
But I think the way they balance Mark Scout's storyline about trying to learn more about his, like, Innie's life and trying to learn about what they're doing there, why he decided to become severed in the first place, I think is fascinating, into the idea of why someone would want to do this.
Yeah.
I think
they all have different reasons, and I think it's very fascinating. Each reason is very fascinating.
And I love the way they explore that. And I will say the ensemble with him and his sister and brother-in-law is also really fun, and I think makes the outside Mark storyline continue to have flair. Yeah,
which is, they do a good job, especially really the sister. I love the sister.
She kills it. She has a Tatiana Maslany feel about her.
Yeah,
like I could so easily see her playing, like, her role in The Monkey. Like, I could see her taking that and also killing with that.
I agree.
I hope that she gets some more work out of this because she definitely carries her own, especially when she's a lot of the time not with the most interesting thing happening in the show, but she almost makes it like level up.
Yeah, she makes it shine in her own way. I think it's great. And I think
the
the brother-in-law does what he needs to, and I don't think he ever overstays his welcome.
Yeah.
I think he does what he needs to. That's the way to describe it. And I think he's good at that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think he's kind of an annoying character, but it's not his fault.
He's a one-note character, but he's supposed to be.
Yes,
because
exactly.
His Devin, the one who's married to him, does so much more.
Yeah.
Because she plays so many other notes.
Yeah, I agree. So he does what he needs to, and I love
and also
that
he's
for
supposed
him.
to be the annoying brother-in-law. So,
exactly.
And he kills that.
Yeah. And then you have Helly R.
Helly R.
She's the other main character.
I would say she is the strongest actor of the show.
I have to agree with that.
I think
she's
I've
phenomenal.
not seen anything else she is in, but she...
Let me see it if I have.
She steals my heart. She breaks my heart. She is... Ugh. I just looked at her on IMDb. I haven't seen anything. She was in Ghosted, apparently. But not anything that I have seen...
I haven't seen that.
...before, but I just would love to see more from Britt Lower, is her name.
Yeah. Oh, she's phenomenal. Like, let's get her in a blockbuster movie.
For sure. Like, she deserves so much screen time. And just,
I'm saying blockbuster because she deserves to be in the spotlight and deserves to get that paycheck.
A lot more people need to know her name.
Yes, exactly. And then she can do, whatever she's interested. More blockbusters, more, whatever she wants to do. So, yeah.
Maybe she'll be Alex in Minecraft, too.
Don't put that in the universe.
I saw someone say that.
Don't. It's like go ahead and put the ranch away. Like, let's just go ahead and put that thought away.
That was a thought, and let's put that back where
let's
it came from.
put it back in our head. And maybe in the trash compartment in our head. Let's just throw it away.
Another thing...
I'm not talking about that blockbuster. Maybe like a Jurassic World, if this one is good and does well.
Ooh, her as like a scientist?
Right? Exactly. You see the vision.
I see the vision,
You see
actually.
the vision. Yeah, exactly. Anyways, that's a better thought. No, I'm not invalidating your Minecraft thought, though, because she would
I don't know.
look, I mean, don't you think, I don't know what Alex is supposed to look like. I know she's supposed to be a redhead.
She's just redhead. And,
okay.
Like Steve doesn't have a personality except build.
Yeah. Yeah. She would outshine Jack Black. In my opinion. Yeah, but, that's what I mean.
But that is such a different aesthetic. And this is a whole nother conversation that honestly I don't think needs to be had. So let's move on.
Let's move on. Let's put it back in the
but I did want to say one of the other severed employed is Dylan, played by Zach Cherry, who is most popular from the Do a Flip Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And I think you've seen him play that kind of character so often. Mm-hmm. And I would say that Dylan is a character adjacent to that. Yeah. But this is definitely his most fleshed out character I've seen him play. Mm-hmm. And it's so great that he can really shine with it.
Yeah.
I could feel like this could so easily be like, he's doing that again, but we just see him so much more often.
He's got a lot of...
It says a lot that he's able to delve into a character as well as he is.
Yeah, he's got plenty of serious moments. His innie and outie are different enough to be interesting, and I think he does well at both. But man, he really shines as innie Dylan for sure. He doesn't get a lot of outie Dylan time, but I don't know. Sorry. I'm losing my voice. Anyways, I don't know. He does a really good job, and I like seeing that from him. I like seeing that he can do that. So they should use that from him more.
Yeah. Ooh, another pro I want to give this show is the opening.
Yes, like the intro.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting.
There's a title, whole theme song that they go through. Ooh, and you hear the score really strong throughout it.
Oh, the score is so good.
It's chilling.
Yeah.
It's everything.
And they use it in the show a lot, but it's never overused. It's always at the right moment when you're like, I just need a little dude. I'm like,
it's
oh my god.
It's perfect at subtly getting you into
yeah.
Oh.
Because it's just a little piano, little thingy. And
you feel like the person playing on the piano is constantly slowly leaning in closer to you.
Yeah. Or they're watching through the TV screen. Anyways, let's move on.
So good.
Do you want to talk about our last main what is it? Why am I
Employee?
forgetting what their department is?
Microdata refinement.
Yes.
MDR.
Yes.
Our last
MDR
employee
member
is Irving. Irving.
Irving.
Played by John Turturro.
I love him.
He has such an interesting arc. He starts on, it's just so interesting, and to see through his character, we see like the introduction of like interpersonal relationships in the workplace, and I think it's.
He was in the Batman, and he was in Do the Right Thing.
Yeah,
that's where I know him from.
Selena's dad.
Falcone.
Mm-hmm.
He was good in that.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And then I
And
see
that
him
means
here, and
also
he's
in the
great
Penguin,
here.
actually.
Oh yeah. Interesting. Was he? No,
Yeah,
because
because it was the thing where he was the one who killed Sophia's mother, and then he sent her to Arkham.
Oh.
Yeah, Irving. Nice job, Irving.
No, Irving would never.
That
Irving
was
would
his
never.
Audie's Audi.
Yeah. No, any or Audi Irving would never.
It's interesting because he's such
great.
like a. He's so uptight.
Yeah.
And then you see him kind of being pushed by like the idea of like something more that he's never considered before.
Yeah.
And he has this like love story, which is it's like beautiful and also
It's so good.
heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's so fascinating. Another really great theme throughout this show is the Ennies kind of like worshiping the business that they work for, and they literally have these like workbook guides that like tell them how to do like office supplies, and also make sure you worship the founder of our company and portray his morals through everything you do, which is truly their whole life because they're never not off that floor.
Yep.
And
They're always at the office. They just walk to the elevator once a day, and then they walk back to their office once a day.
yeah,
They just keep going back and forth.
it's
crazy. It's crazy to think about if you hadn't, like, how much do you have to hate an Emmy to, like, force them to go to work 24/7? That's crazy.
Well, I think that's why they make such a point of the separation. And
Yeah.
then you also hear some of the characters talk who aren't Ennies about, what is an Ennie? And, are they people?
Yeah.
And, most of the people working at Lumen say no.
Yeah.
Which, regardless of how much of a human they are, it's
Mm-hmm.
you're watching it
crazy.
feels heartbreaking to see them
Yeah.
treated the way they are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's the conversation around, like autonomy there, I think is the word I'm looking for.
Absolutely.
It's just fascinating because then, like, what's the solution there? Because there's not, I don't know how to do this without, or how to say this without
We'll
being
get into the spoiler talk of it
But
all.
yeah, it's just like, can they exist at the same time? Does both sides, do they want both sides to exist? And, it's the lack of choice on some sides. I don't know. It's just a very interesting conversation all around.
With season 2's ending, another thing it really highlights is one of the characters kind of thinks that maybe there isn't a happy ending for him.
Yeah.
And for me, it raises the question: is there a way they can end this show in a satisfying manner?
Yeah.
And I think that's really, I think maybe that's why the season 2 finale hits me on a weird note, because it does raise that concern where it's like, ooh, is there a way that you can, end this show in a way where no one feels wronged?
Yeah, because essentially, these are personalities that only exist in two forms. So you just go to work the rest of your life? Like, that's just at what point do you just not exist anymore? If your Audi just stops going to work, and they explore that a couple times in different interesting ways, and I don't know. It's a very fascinating conversation, and it's like it's just very sad to witness. And yeah, it does raise a question. Okay, then how is the show going to end? What is going to happen here?
Yeah, I really hope they have a
No.
season 3 trailer that shows us what direction
Maybe
they're
where we're
going.
going.
Because I really could not guess what a whole nother season of the show looks like.
No, I have no idea.
Feels just
Because it does
crazy.
feel like they answered almost too many questions
They answered a lot of questions and didn't
and didn't
give enough
raise enough
left.
other ones. Yeah, I agree. So I'm worried. But I don't know. We had overall such a strong journey that I'm going to be there, and I'm, you know, more optimistic than worried.
Absolutely.
I feel like. Mm-hmm.
I think a trailer will do a lot for me.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
So, that being said, what's our time?
35 minutes. You want to move into spoilers?
Yeah, let's go ahead and switch over into spoiler talk.
Yeah,
there's a
cool
lot
gap.
to talk about in the specifics. So,
yeah, I agree.
You have been warned. We're going to go into the spoiler talk for both season 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So, before we do that, please, please, please consider watching this show.
Yes.
It is so worth it however you can.
Mm-hmm.
It is just, it is so good. If you enjoy television, watch this show.
Yeah,
and,
I agree.
And if you're thinking about watching the show, stop listening to us, because I cannot imagine watching this show and knowing all of the things that happened beforehand.
Because that's the thing is, people kept talking about how good it was, but I feel like they were really good at not talking about specifics. Yeah. So it was a very special journey, and I loved that.
Every twist was able to hit me exactly how they wanted to. So, so thank everything. So
yeah.
Do you want to kick us off on some spoiler talk?
Okay. So, maybe we could talk about... Do you want to do the cast order, or do you want to go through each episode?
Episodes a lot. Let's just kind of go through some of the important things for some of our characters.
Yeah. So, we start with Mark. He is being promoted to department head after his coworker, Petey's sudden disappearance. And then his first task is to orient Helly R into MDR. And she is very, very against what's happening here. She doesn't know what's happening. She doesn't like what's happening. She's the character you mentioned earlier that kept trying to leave, and it was very fascinating to see her come back constantly.
What a great intro episode.
Yeah, because also when you don't know what's happening and you're like, because you see them like, you know, through the hallway, but then you're like, why is it happening in the staircase? And like this, it's very disorienting, but it's very cool when you slowly start to figure it out.
Well, it's super disorienting, but it's so like real to the experience and putting us into what the character's feeling. It's so good.
The times that they choose to not show things and just show how they're like, you know, changing, but then they come right back, and you know, like showing their perspective only. And when they show both perspectives is very interesting, and they do a very good job at picking and choosing when they do either one.
I really love throughout this show when they like show one that like an Innie's experience and then like show the same experience that day from the Audie's perspective. I remember there's an episode for the Helena episode where there's Helly's, like we see Helly's experience day one, and then towards the end we see Helena's experience day one, and it's just so fascinating to be like, oh my gosh, I know what's happening on the other side of that door. I love it when shows do stuff like that.
Yeah, and I do think it sets up a really good, and like, I don't know, it sets up a really good opportunity to say, this is what it means to be severed. Here's an intro into the world of this show. But it's not like a, what is it, like exposition kind of thing. It just feels very natural.
Yeah.
It feels like we want to know what's going on for her, and then it gives us the information, paints the picture for everybody.
It's so great when a show is able to like introduce an entire like world or concept with a character that needs to know all of the exact same stuff that we want to know.
Yep. And we care to find out this information because we like already care about the character. It's like she's in a world where she's disoriented. She's like, you know, was passed out in the middle of the table. It's like, wow, like I also feel so disoriented, and so I'm right there with them, and I want to experience this as well because I'm in the same place you are. I'm in the dark just like you. I want to find out what's happening. And I think that's great. Yeah. And then having Mark be like, what's happening? Why is she doing this? Why is she fighting? You know, it's funny because it's like, then you kind of get that taste of, oh, he knows what's going on. He's done this before. He's trying to figure out how to introduce her. And I think that's great. And then they also show, in the outside world, Mark's Audi, that he is choosing to be severed because his wife Gemma died in a car crash, and he is so like sad about it that he wanted to like have part of him not have to experience that.
Yeah.
So he creates his any.
Yeah,
I think it's very interesting.
I think maybe taking a second here to talk about the reasons some of these people go into.
Yeah.
Why they get severed.
Because I feel like I remembered being frustrated with Mark at first because he just felt so like he didn't care. I don't know. It's like I wanted to know more about him, and then to find out why his Audi chose to have an innie it added a lot to his character really early on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad they did that. But other characters, not so much. Well, it was it fits their character.
Well,
but.
I mean, look at like the difference between Helly and Helena. And
Yeah.
the fact that the whole point of having an innie for her is like an ego trip.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a part of this whole franchise, and she's the daughter of the CEO, and
Yes.
how
spoilers for the season finale of season 1, but yeah.
And it's
She's Egan.
Yes,
that's the name. Is like the creator and founder of Lumen, and she's his daughter or granddaughter.
She's the great granddaughter.
Great granddaughter.
The oldest male is still going to be the head of the
Right.
because
Yeah.
of course, this kind of
yeah.
business. But I love the early idea of Helly trying to leave and go through the proper channels and be told no.
Yeah.
And then
she tries things like writing on her skin, and I think she tries like harming herself at first in some way. I forgot how. I want to say it.
Ooh, I don't remember actually.
I want to say there was a step before the big thing.
Because he was warning her about the scanners, because they can't send messages up.
Yeah,
because there's the scanners that will literally track anything that's on the inside of their body.
If she swallows a piece of paper with writing on it, they're gonna know that, and they're gonna wait till you can get it out one way or another. So yeah, it felt very like scary.
How do you get around this?
Yeah, it felt very scary for her, and it almost feels like in a way that Helly takes like a main character route at first. And I love that, but then it's still very much Mark is the main character, but I don't know.
I don't know. She's definitely the female lead of the show.
Oh yeah.
And I love that you spend so much of season 1 not knowing who her outie is.
Yep. It's so purposeful.
But her any time is so valuable in that respect that it makes her stand right next to Mark with him having an innie and an outie storyline. But hers is just so interesting because she immediately is like, I want out of this. How do I get out? And then she goes, genius move. I like at first thought she was just doing it to like end it all. Whenever she tries to,
how do we say this on YouTube?
Yeah,
she does some self-harm with a cord and an elevator.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah, you can probably catch our drift. And she has the elevator go up, so she kicks the chair out from under her, and then it's her Audi that has to suffer the consequence of that.
Yeah.
Very similar to how the Audi made that choice for her to go down there.
Well, that's what I'm wondering is because I feel like there's something that she does before that, because I want to say her Audi's very she makes this really disgusting video where she's like, I'm not letting you leave here. And then she's like, okay, I'll just do this in the elevator then.
That's after she does the official request. It gets denied, and then she starts threatening someone.
Yeah.
I think Cobell, and then she brings up the video where it's like, I'm not going to let you do this. I told you're unhappy down there. Unfortunately, I'm not in a place where you can leave, so you're just going to have to make it work. And then she's defeated, and then she does that, and then she gets an even worse video where it's like, if you try anything like that again, I'm going to make sure you have an even worse life down there. Yeah. And it's like, whoa. And I love the questions it rains of. What kind of person do you have to be to do that to some extension of yourself? And then throughout season 2, I love the conversation of, how can Helena and Heliar be in the same body but be so different? We look at Mark, and there's between Mark S and Mark Scout, there's still such like a difference between the two, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, there's still an element of like
They're still
I can
like
see
good
these two-
people.
I can see these two like diverging from the same point.
Yeah.
Where Helena and Helly
Totally different.
feel just like completely different characters, and I think that's so interesting. The conversation there, and the idea that they both hate their other self, and
Yeah.
it's just so
Wild.
good.
Yeah.
It's just so fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Dylan,
We have
who it's
Dylan.
revealed he took the job because he literally couldn't get hired anywhere else.
Yep.
And then
Which real. Real.
well, it wasn't.
But
Well, it wasn't even that he couldn't be. He wasn't hired other places. It's that he couldn't keep a job.
yeah, he
So-
felt like he wasn't good at anything, and he felt like at Lumen he was, as far as he knew, he was doing a good job, and so he felt like that was the only place he found purpose,
And I love.
which is fascinating
there's a
because
whole-
he's not even there.
And there's a whole
So-
plot point throughout season 2 of his Dylan, the innie, is made aware that he has a kid, he has a wife, all outside that he's never going to meet again.
Yeah.
And they introduce this room where his wife gets to come visit him,
Mm-hmm.
and he falls in love with his Audi's wife, and is and like she expresses
He's really
like,
nice to her, like so sweet to her.
And-
It's really sweet to watch.
There's, and you see like, and at some point they like share a kiss,
Mm-hmm.
and the wife goes home to Audi Dylan and is like, "This happened," and he's like, "How could you like cheat on me with myself?
Mm-hmm.
I literally work to provide for you," and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, no, you don't. You actually
Yeah.
just get in an elevator, and then that's the person who's actually providing for her
Yep.
and doing.
And he's kind to me, and you're not kind to me. You haven't treated me like you love me in forever. And here's your innie who's providing for us and then actually nice to me. So crazy.
Yeah, I think that whole plot is so interesting.
And she's like, and she says, like, he reminds me of your old self before you felt insecure about your skills and what jobs you can have and blah blah blah.
Yeah, and
Oh,
I
that's
also
really
love
sad.
the idea that it still feels so much like they diverged from the same path.
Yeah, I agree.
And then
Because I mean, that's what it is. That's like his old self in a way.
yeah,
So
Irving we know the least about, which is
Yeah.
interesting considering in the season 2 finale he's one of the characters sent off seemingly for good.
yeah.
It certainly feels
So
that way.
he has a really interesting storyline in season 1 because he meets Bert.
Bert,
Bert,
Christopher Walken.
What a wonderful duo. I just love them. Like, they're just great actors, and also just they're doing great in their characters' relationship.
It feels so real.
Yes.
Like obviously
Yeah.
they like are falling in love in such a weird and like high concept
Environment,
way.
yeah.
But like it feels so real to like the way you get these crushes on people in real life, and then you just, you know, you feel that spark, and then suddenly you're seeing them every day, and then, you know, you keep finding reasons to run into them.
Yeah.
And it and the way they
Spending
like
20
subtly
minutes on your hair in the bathroom. I think they said something about that. I loved that.
and then the
It's,
way
like,
they
real.
just keep like casually like kind of testing the waters
They're
on
just
each
so,
other.
like, hey.
It's so cute,
Hey.
so real, and it's so heartbreaking whenever
Yeah.
you see Bert is like thrown into Bert's retirement party, and the idea that he's going to go out that elevator and that part of him is just never going to exist again. And I think that's like the wake up moment for him, who's like the most like by the book rule following. The founder of this company is our god, and I love the whole putting yourself first and finding value in your life outside of what all of these people are telling you is important.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have a story similar to that, and I think Irving's story within that is really moving. And
Yeah.
then to like, you know, and there's a lot of overlap with that inherently with like a queer love story. But I think that's not always the case. There's plenty of times when you're in a scenario close to that, and it's not necessarily that you're gay. It's that you're just different from what you're expected to be.
Yeah.
And it's just all around another huge highlight of that first season. And then the way it kind of
So-
explores it in season 2
Yeah.
in some unexpected ways. With Bert basically like, you're gonna get on that train or I'm gonna kill you. Isn't it crazy that our innies were in love? It's crazy. It's
Crazy.
I'm Christopher
Anyways,
Walken.
you need to do this or you'll die. By my hand, by the way. Yeah. But Irving also has an interesting connection to the overall story of finding out, what's really going on here, what's Lumen actually
'Cause
doing.
Irving,
Because his Audi is revealed to be creating tons of paintings of this black hallway with like a dark elevator and a red arrow pointing down,
yes,
which is crazy considering they're already going down. So there's a even
a
deeper
lower floor,
basement.
the testing floor they call it.
And I think in season 1 we do see it.
We see that's
At the
where she
end.
goes down, where
Miss
Miss Casey
Casey.
goes down.
Yes.
Also, big reveal. Miss Casey, who is your innie is kind. I love that scene so much.
Annie is kind.
Your-
I love her, and I love the actress. And I just wanted to say, I feel like she would kill it as, I think you say her name, Mirage from The Incredibles. The silver-haired lady.
She
would kill that
would
role.
that.
I love that for her. So, but she kills it in this role too. And yeah, we get a reveal that she's
Mark
Gemma.
Scout's wife, Gemma.
What?
And then
That's
a
a
lot
great
of season
reveal.
2 and that's the big reveal of season 2, because Mark S knows that Mark's wife died, and then he stumbles upon a picture and is like, oh my gosh, I worked with that woman.
Yep.
And the end is him yelling at Mark's sister that she's
She's
alive.
alive. It's like very dramatic. Like, she's alive.
Right before he gets cut and back to the
Mm-hmm.
severed floor. It's so well
Yeah.
done.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Because the whole episode, you're like, why is Mark S the least efficient person ever? Why is he spending so much time doing nothing? And yet, I feel like out of the 3 that get unsevered in the real world, he ends up doing the most.
he absolutely does.
I feel like he ends up doing the
I mean,
most.
he-
And
he
I mean, I guess Heliar does a lot, but then it doesn't lead to as much
Sure.
as his does.
I mean,
so.
they all do what they think is important, and they're obviously
Yeah.
thrown into a place where they don't know who they can trust.
Mhm.
Look at Kobel being there, and he's like,
Yeah.
I don't. And the idea like you don't know who is also here with her.
Yeah.
So I think there's a great
Ugh.
element, at least from Mark, and then
Mhm.
obviously Irving. It was super important to him to find Bert.
Mhm.
Another thing that I guess we just still don't know about him because he had a list of a bunch of Lumen employee addresses.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
why does he know about that door when he's an Audi?
Yeah.
I think there's still so much to him.
So it is interesting that in the show, they have this work retreat, which I guess if you're at this section,
Yes.
you've probably seen it. But it is fascinating to see that he's the first person to figure out that Heliar is actually Helena or Helena. I
Yeah.
think it's Helena.
And I love
That's wild. First of all, Mark, you're fake. What's wrong with you?
yeah, no kidding. And it's
I would have made that a much bigger deal than Heliar did, actually.
Mm.
Actually. She was not mad for long enough for me. I was like, girl, you deserve to be mad like an entire season, actually. So
Yeah,
that
it's-
should be your villain origin
it's
story.
so fascinating and scary, the idea of like the person that you love
Mhm.
being replaced and you not knowing that.
Yeah.
That is like that's such like a horrifying idea.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
Ugh. And then, because I feel like even we guessed it earlier
Well, to be fair,
than the other 3. Right?
I don't know. We knew she was being weird, but I
Mhm.
think the show is really smart in the way where it's like maybe Helly wouldn't tell them because
Mhm.
she's an Egan, and then would they be able to trust
Yeah.
her
Mm-hmm.
because she knows that?
Yeah.
And I think it's really clever the way that they played with that.
They do a good job. It's not like a situation where you can't guess it. It's just
But I love
they don't make it obvious
I
either.
love how Irving figured it out, and she's like, "How did you know?" And it's like,
Mhm.
"Helly was never cruel."
Yeah.
And it was, and it's said with
Mhm.
so much love.
So true.
Because like that's his family.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the people that like have always been hit by his side, supported him through
Yeah.
Bert, and the love that they all kind of share for each other, even though
Mhm.
constantly at each other's necks.
Mm-hmm.
That's family.
Yeah.
It's
And I do think I saw this video where someone spliced together the last scene from season 1 that she remembers in the first scene when she actually wakes up as Heliar, and it's wild. She is giving that speech. No, it's like she's giving the speech, and then she wakes up and she's like drowning in water.
Oh my
That's
God.
wild. Poor Irving that he had. Well, poor her, but also I feel bad for Irving that he had to do that. I was like, dang, because he's doing it because he loves her, but and he sees no other way.
Ugh.
But that's crazy. I was like, next thing you know, you're dying. What if it's like you're Annie trying to drown herself, but like teach you a lesson in a way? I mean, no wonder she looked so disorienting in that scene. And what a killer job the actress did on all of that.
Yeah.
Every front. It's just great.
And, moving on, I want to shout out Milchek.
Milchek? I was just about to say.
He's killing it. He is
We'll get to Cobell and
Cobell
a couple
in the
other
first
side
season,
characters
and he
later.
was always like a gem to be around. He was the one who
Yeah.
got like.
He's very
He
fascinating.
got stuff done. He has
Yeah.
such a unique way of talking,
Yes.
which is
Big
so-
words. He gets in trouble for
Big
that
words.
later.
This like nice smile, even when he's threatening you.
Mm-hmm.
And he has like, even though he's not that big of a guy, he always has such like a like.
He has a very threatening presence to him of like,
crazy.
because he has power to do things, and at first it's more of like a, what can he do? Like it's like the not knowing that makes him scary, because he just carries this such a presence and power that you're like, physically you don't look that threatening. You just look like an average man.
Mhm.
But like, you're in a position of power, and we find out he's not severed, or we figure out he's not severed. And so it's like, you know way more than us. And there are a couple times that you're like, why don't they fight back? And then every now and then they do, and it turns out really poorly for them. And you're like, yeah, you are scary. You are very scary, because you can do things that I don't even know you can do.
Mm-hmm.
So he does
Yeah.
a wonderful
And then
job
he-
at that.
and then
Very
season 2
excited
gets
for Mission
promoted,
Impossible.
and he gets like
Yeah.
even more exciting to watch.
Mhm.
I will
Yeah.
say, he gets replaced. Like his role gets replaced by a child with
Ugh.
Huang, I think was her name.
Miss Huang.
Miss Huang,
Yeah.
and
Which she does have a very creepy presence to her, but it's, while his is to me, it's almost never aggravating. Like I still really enjoy his presence,
Yes.
even though he's terrifying. She's very annoying.
and it's weird. I
She's
don't know
written
what
to
it
be
is.
annoying.
Like clearly, there's an element where it's supposed to be annoying because it's this child in the
Mm-hmm.
workplace doing an adult job
Yeah.
with no explanation.
Well, maybe because she's like doing his job, except she's not threatening in any way. Like, she really doesn't have power.
Yeah.
Her only power is to like tell on them to Milchik. And she's a child, so they could probably stop her from doing
Oh,
that pretty easily.
Bro, don't make me tell you all the ways I could kill a kid.
Whoa.
In a
Whoa. Fictional kid.
Children.
Fictional. For legal
No,
reasons.
but I will say, I was
That's
I can only imagine
more people
my
needed
innie
to
would be
like
very
pop people in
violent.
the face.
Like,
Yeah.
I could not imagine like being told by anyone,
Much
like,
as a
I have no
child.
memory of myself, and then like anyone's gonna stand there and tell me to like go work at a computer, and I'm like, I'm gonna throw this computer at your head.
I'm gonna like pop you in the nose real quick.
I'm
Actually,
gonna ugh.
I'm gonna drop
The idea
kick.
of being trapped in that, with like the idea of it, like is like I would react very violently. to that.
Crazy.
Like, ugh.
More people needed to like be angry and fight people in this show.
'Cause,
Like, come
what-
on.
Oh, you're gonna keep me down here? What if I just don't work?
No, yeah,
I'm
for
just
real.
gonna like paint on the walls.
La, 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 la. No, actually, for real though, that is because I mean,
Ugh.
there's sometimes where you're like, I want them to fight back, but I can see why because they're scared, and other times you're just like, you're going along with this way more and way easier than you should.
Like at some point, like you have to try violence.
Yeah, or you have to like talk back, or like, I mean, you are adults. Like let's do a little adulting here.
I don't know. It's
No,
also
stand up for
But
yourself.
I think it's also interesting that I'd imagine myself being super like violent and aggressive in response to that. But you know, I have you're made by the experiences you have.
Maybe, yeah.
So it's very interesting that, like, I probably would not be able to guess how I'd react.
Yeah. Because maybe you would, but maybe your Annie wouldn't.
There's no telling because you're
Whatever.
such a blank
Yeah.
slate. And I think it's also interesting the idea that they all start as a blank slate
Mm-hmm.
and they're all given the exact same, like, lead-in. But Helly's not receptive to that.
Nope.
So...
And it is treated as, like, this is pretty abnormal. I mean, like, some pushback, they're like, yeah, that's normal. Like, here, because they have things on, if they push back, here's what you can do. But she gets, like, pretty violent early on,
Yeah,
which,
she
like,
throws a
good for
clock at
her.
his head and runs,
That's
which
why we love
is
her,
so fair.
because she's a real one.
Yeah.
She's a real one. And that's, they should have had her keep that energy for the whole show. But I kind of understand, because then she does at some point go to the break room, which is crazy. Which they don't really
They never
do
did
anything with
explain-
that in the
I think
season
that
2.
just ties into the idea that they're trying to make like a religious comparison to Lumen,
Yeah.
and I think I always expected the plot twist to be like if you unscramble the letters, it's a
Yeah.
suicide note because they're
Yeah.
being recorded,
I thought so too.
And
So
they
to
never
be
did
like a
explore
backup.
that.
Mm-hmm.
and I thought the threat would be like they play that for the innie, and it's like if you don't do your job, your Audi's gonna have an accident, and this is what the police are gonna find. And it's like, well, that's their voice.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I thought it would lead to that too. And I understand season 2, you know, a lot was different. They crossed the line because they were so fed up with Lumen. So then they were like, we'll back off a lot in these ways. Like, we won't do break room, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's now an actual break room. But I don't know. I agree. I do wish the creepy part of it had a follow-up
Yeah.
before they got rid of it. So,
And then
be back.
I also love the gap between season 1 and 2. It's unclear how much time has passed. Mark comes in season 2, episode 1, and he has a whole new team because they're trying to just replace it and get him to finish the file he's working on, which we find out is the final personality, the final new innie that they're making on his wife. Because on the testing floor, Gemma has like 28 innies, I think.
I think so. Something like that.
So,
which is wild.
Which I think it's so interesting, and I think it does raise the question of why do they want so many different innies for one person?
Yeah, what are they testing? Like, what's the goal here?
And then that also raises the
Which
question...
I guess is the biggest season 3
why does,
opportunity.
like... I don't know. The idea that Mark has to be the one working on this file is like... So does it have to be him because it's his wife? Is it because, like, it's... however these numbers are displayed on the screen that, you know, they have an emotional response to, like, sort it?
Yeah.
Is there something
and
where
then
it's,
what
like,
have the other 3 been
linked up to
doing?
him? And what are they doing? That's another great question. Because I thought, like, whenever it, like, shows on the testing floor and there's 4 desks and there's one person that looks like each of the 4 employees there, and I'm like... Oh, I continue to really want to know more about the testing floor. But they got out of the testing floor really fast.
Yeah.
For very good reasons. But it feels, I don't know, it almost feels like we've gotten past that a little bit to the point where it's like, it's one of those things where it's like...
Can we explore it at this point?
Can we explore it without feeling like we're going back?
Yeah. I don't know. I totally agree. And that adds to your, like, closing door comment with season 2. And I agree with that. I don't know. It's... sucks because season 1 was literally perfect, and then season 2 is just, it's very weird in many ways. And speaking of weird, we never talked about Petey though. We should probably talk about Petey before we talk about Cobell.
Sure.
Because that's just season 1.
Petey used to be the manager of the floor.
Yeah.
He ends up leaving or getting fired. I think that's left vague about why he left or how he left. But it's revealed to Mark Scout that he works with him on the severed floor, and he is not unsevered, but reintegrated. So they shut down the device that separates your 2 personalities.
It's like a little pill-shaped thing that's like
injected into your brain.
Yeah.
And so he starts explaining that, like, it's this process. This is the number and address you go to get it done. It's where I get my Botox done.
Yeah.
That kind
it's
of vibe.
not sketchy at all.
See,
everything is very clean. Don't worry.
And you love seeing the way, like, you see him, like, start, like, living life, like, having a scene, and then he looks over and he's looking at Mark S. instead of Mark Scout, and then all of a sudden he's back in the office, and you see him, like, having these memories of being down there flushed and, like, thrown at him, and then he's not sure what's real and what isn't. In season 2, we see Mark start experimenting with that. I kind of wish that happened a little faster.
Yeah.
Or maybe if Mark S. saw it a little more. I think would also be interesting to be like, oh, why am I seeing Mark Scout's life?
It did start to take a little bit of a turn where it started to be more Mark Scout was the main character and less a balance between the two. I think that's interesting. Not that one is more interesting than the other. I don't think that's the case, but it does suck because I think they worked really well as a balance, and it led to things later where Mark S was really mad about a plan that Mark Scout had.
Yeah, about reintegration. We can talk about
Yeah.
and I think he does raise a really great point, and I love that scene where Mark
But it does
S
make it seem like it almost makes him seem like Mark S is out of the loop, and I feel like he shouldn't be. I don't in like certain ways. Like he should have been seeing like
he should be more
Mark
familiar
Scouts.
with something is happening.
Yeah, something weird's happening.
So I don't know, but I love that scene a lot where they're talking to each other for the first time. They're in this cabin, specifically for
That was really
women
cool.
to give birth, so that their outie women don't have to remember what it's like to give birth.
Yeah.
In another completely messed up way. Where
Yeah.
It's like all this woman knows is birthing.
She went in and had a
she'll
child.
Never know how to have, like she'll never see again.
Yeah.
It's another horrible thing to do.
Yeah, because then you wake up and you probably don't get the explanation that the Lumen people do. You probably just wake up and you're in labor pain. That's horrible.
And
also,
then,
considering in real life, a lot of women don't remember the pain of pregnancy. Like they do, but like not the extent of it. There's a whole thing about that where like the chemicals in your brain.
I know it's a whole thing. And
so I'm like,
I don't know.
Did we need this?
It further goes into like just the privilege of like, and I don't even need to now.
Yeah.
It's ugh. But I love the scene where he just steps outside onto the balcony, and that's the switch between Mark S and Mark Scout.
Yeah.
And they just are filming their responses in a conversation into a camera.
Yeah, and they take their time with it really well. And then when it's like high tension, like they do that really well.
Really well.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It felt like a season 1 scene. Like it felt really strong. So I don't know. And then the sister's there and Miss Cobell's there, and they don't intervene until I think like the perfect time too, when they really come to a head. And I love that. I feel like I didn't need to see them until we needed to see them. Yeah. So yeah.
But it ends up with them getting Gemma out, and I also wanted to have this conversation.
Yeah.
On the air.
On the air.
About that season 2 finale, that cliffhanger.
Yeah.
So this cliffhanger is they get Miss Casey, or they get Gemma out of the testing floor. As soon as she comes up to the severed floor, she becomes Miss Casey.
Yeah.
So she doesn't know what's going on, and Mark S continues to lead her to the exit door. And then she goes through, and it's Gemma again.
Yeah.
And Gemma is looking back at Mark S and telling Mark, let's go, we have to get out of here. But then further down the hall, you see Helly, who is looking at Mark.
Yeah.
And it becomes, which way are you going to go?
That's the moment where I'm like, ooh, I hate this finale. That's when it happened for me. Right there. Because I knew exactly what was going to happen, and it did.
I love the idea of that question. And, like, further proof of the idea that, like, these are different people. And they are not their outies.
I do.
But unfortunately, I hate the fact that the stakes are so high for you, not Helly, and Gemma / Miss Casey, where, like, if either of you get caught, you likely will be shot and killed so that they can cover this up.
Yep.
And, but it's also hard with the idea that he is also essentially, like, killing himself if he steps out that door, because he believes he won't ever be alive again if he does that. So.
Well, and it's frustrating because it would be an interesting conversation to have had we had it in that moment. But we had it earlier in the episode where we already came to a conclusion of, well, even if we stay, they're not going to let us be together after you do this. So really the only actual choice is to do this. Like, we don't have a happy ending. So you have to do this so someone can have a happy ending. And then he still goes back on it. And she accepts him going back on it. Like, Helly, you're the one who sent him there in the first place and pushed him away because you said you need to do this. And then you're like, okay, you changed your mind. Let's go. I'm like, I hate that. Hate it. What do you think's going to happen here? Because, I mean, the obvious thing is that they're not going to exist again, but then what's season 3 going to be? So I guess they're going to exist, but how? How do you get around this?
Do you think... It kind of almost gives me... So there's there's a franchise in gaming called Portal and Portal 2.
Okay.
And it has some similar vibes. The idea is there's this robot who kind of took over this, like, scientist experiment place that constantly just runs tests on test subjects that like, come out of cryopod, and it's like, here, come do this test with these portals and get through this maze with this portal gun that I give you.
Okay.
And it's all, the walls are all white, they have these cubes, and it's like giving like the facts where it's like, did you know that if you, it's like almost like the Gemma talk where it's like, did you know that your mother and father just did not like you, and they were so happy to give you up for science. Because also the robot who runs the place is an asshole.
Yeah.
Also
I bet. Yeah.
But it feels very that. And then there's also, like, a lore of, like, employees who, like, get out and are, like, hiding in the walls. And, like, are, like, plotting to try and, like, escape. And I think that it feels like where are they going that in a way that could be interesting. I think it could be interesting if there's, like, the lost Lumen employees who just... you know, didn't want to retire and found a place somewhere down in the labyrinth where Lumen didn't have cameras set up, or they found a way around that. That would be something interesting. It takes away a lot of the whole Mark S or Mark Scout stuff.
Yeah.
Which I think losing that dynamic loses some of the magic of the show thus far.
I agree. Yeah. It becomes this really hard conversation because you want everyone to get a happy ending, but inevitably you can't. Like, you can't have the same body and be two different people and exist like that forever.
And I loved how Mark S. explained, like, the idea of reintegration. He was like, okay, so we're going to blend and become one person, but,
then who?
You know, you have so much more life lived than I do. I become what? Like, a 20th
distant memory
of you, and you, like, that's just you with, like... a dash of me in there.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want that either.
Yeah.
So it's all fascinating, and I guess it forces the question, because I wasn't asking it. Maybe if we had that time between seasons, we would have more time to kind of unpack and, like, where does this show go and where does it end? Because, like, right now I really couldn't, like, to say, because obviously...
I don't know.
Like,
Lumen
has to be brought down because they're playing God too much.
Because then it's not even, like, a situation of, can Lumen make a deal with Mark Scout where he lets Mark S coexist with Heliar, but maybe, but maybe he would. That
is what makes them so powerful.
Yes,
because they can literally hold these innies' lives.
Yeah, because then maybe y'all have a happy ending or for a while. When's Lumen gonna change their mind? And what? And then
Common
you're letting
people.
them do that to other people.
It's very common people from Black Mirror.
Yeah, yeah. Because then, you know, other people are suffering and you're allowing that because you're not taking them down. But in taking them down, you're essentially killing two people. And so it's such a difficult conversation. And you can explore it really well, but how do you end it where everything feels satisfying? Because I just don't know.
Because I feel like it has to be someone gets okay with sacrificing themselves.
Yeah, but neither one. That's sure not where this left off.
No, and I think that, I don't know. Sure. I think it definitely adds some interesting layers for season 3.
Yeah.
And like, you know, like Helena, you see them at a impasse. With,
or maybe they don't let Mark S go home.
I mean, but then it's so crazy because what do you mean no one on the above floor is going to stop her from walking away? She doesn't have keys.
Yeah.
And it's...
Where do we go from here? Because then if Jim is recaptured, then she's going to be killed, and what the heck was it all for?
Yeah.
So I guess she escapes.
I mean,
maybe.
We'll find out, but it's not a given. And
it's... But I don't like our options here.
It's all weird. It's all very weird. The end note continues to be very weird. Like, almost if they'd cut it as soon as, like...
They're about to go to the stairwell?
Like, if they cut, like, right as they, like, get into, like, the elevator up,
Oh,
Like maybe
okay.
like I almost feel like that would have been like this almost feels like it would be okay if it was like
Yeah.
the first episode of season 3.
Yeah.
And like the idea where it's like I am going to decide that my life also has value and I am
Yeah.
going to explore this relationship
Mhm.
after saving this woman's life.
Yeah.
However, she's not safe yet and she's still
Yeah.
definitely in the office building of the company that kidnapped her and faked her death so no one would miss her
Mhm.
and therefore could kill her without repercussion.
Yep.
So it
Yeah.
it just feels sloppy, which is not anything you could even imagine saying about season 1.
No,
And
it's
then-
wild.
And then season 2 even has those like those one-off episodes where it's like
Cobell
here's the Cobell
episode.
episode and
Which I will say, I feel like season 1, I didn't mind her. I did think that Milchek was much better, but I feel like she didn't really overstay her welcome in season 1. And then season 2, she just didn't have anything to do and didn't do anything interesting with that. And I mean, I kind of, at times, liked the whole when Lumen wanted her back thing. I kind of liked that conversation.
I didn't mind her until she had her whole episode and then
Yeah.
it was like, okay, I've
It was
officially
really
seen way
bad.
too much of this.
Like, not even just bad writing, but like bad acting too.
Yeah.
It was rough. I hated that episode. It was really boring and just really bad on all fronts. And then did it really lead anywhere? Not really.
I mean, she was the one who revealed what they were doing with the file.
Yeah.
So it
that's
was,
true.
And that was another thing
Cold Harbor.
whenever they got rid of the person doing the reintegration, Lorne, played by... No, not Lorne. It was... Karen? Played by Asai Rigabi, I believe is how you say that.
Yeah.
I thought she was fun in, like, her constantly trying to reintegrate them in different methods and kind of being the voice behind what's happening.
Mhm.
I thought she did a good job. But then I thought her leaving
Yeah.
and the idea that, like, the sister was... Devin was, like, given a... Okay, so you're trying to call Cobell,
Yeah.
but I'm telling you that she works for Lumen and will let him die if Lumen wants that.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you as the person who's, like, you know, mid this procedure,
Yeah.
if you do call her, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And you're on your own.
Yeah.
And it's like, why would you trade, like, that feels like a bad trade-off. Devin.
Yeah.
Obviously it, like, warranted in the way of, like, figuring out that missing piece of what was happening.
Yeah.
Luckily.
Mhm.
But otherwise...
It felt like a really wild choice on Devin's part that felt very out of character to me.
Mhm.
I mean, I understand that she was freaking out because she didn't know the woman and she didn't know what was happening. But, like, she painted it very clearly to you that she's going to leave and your brother's going to be, like, vulnerable if she leaves. And you've never been given a reason whatsoever to trust Cobell. In fact, you've been given every reason not to. And we're supposed to believe that you're going to turn to her? No. I just don't believe you. I don't think she'd be that stupid. I don't think anyone would be that stupid. I mean, she was the missing piece, and it worked out.
Didn't put all the cards on the table either.
No.
So it's like, so why are you continuing to trust her? It's so
Right.
It's so weird.
I don't know. I mean, it worked out for them, but like, I don't.
But like,
I
did
don't
it?
know.
Because Mark
Did
and
it?
Gemma are still in the building.
It's true. It's so true. I don't know, man. It just feels very wild.
It does feel very wild.
Because every other part, I feel like I loved Devin so much. And
Yeah.
Rick and Hale, the brother-in-law, with the book connection, that was very fun.
Mhm.
That was really funny when Mark was there, and he was like, I love your book. And he was like, huh? You hate me. You're like, no, like, it changed my life. And you're like, this is great. This is great. Because they don't, like, get to read stuff, really,
Yeah.
from the outside world. I still don't know why they had his book, but it was funny.
Well, because they took it from Mark's patio because they were wondering
Oh, right.
if someone was trying to reach him about reintegration, and
Oh.
then they took it down to investigate.
Yeah.
Milchek had it down there, and then
Yeah.
he just left it somewhere
Oh,
where Dylan found it.
Milchek. Why would you do that?
So it's, I love the way that all happened, and then
Yeah.
I think it's also interesting the idea that the brother-in-law is willing to kind of not follow through on his morals for the sake of his book deal.
Mm-hmm.
I I think that's also interesting. I'm very curious
Yeah.
to see if that goes anywhere because I feel like that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Which is pretty back burner. This
Yeah.
season.
Yeah. I hope they explore that more as well.
Uh,
Also, we haven't mentioned her yet, but Gwendolyn Christie, who plays Brienne of Tarth in Game of Thrones, had a little short appearance here as Lauren, the goat lady.
that goat lady.
Loved her. She slayed.
It was so funny. The
Literally,
goat hill was
she slayed.
crazy.
Yeah.
Like and as soon as you saw someone disguised as a goat, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I feel unsafe."
God. Yeah.
And then she like did the whistle, and then all of the people came over the hills. And it's like, this
Where
room
did
is
they
not
come
that big.
from? No.
What the heck?
And it's white walls and green floors. How did you not see them? It's wild. But also when we see the goat and she's saying like, do we have to like kill this one or something like that? They use a term and I didn't know what it meant, so I Googled it and it said something like, I thought I had accidentally spoiled myself. I did not, because it didn't lead anywhere, so I don't know why they used this term. But it was saying something of like, is this goat can this goat like be ready for a sacrifice and transferring a brain or something? Somehow I came to the conclusion of like, oh my god, are they gonna put like Gemma's brain in this goat? But then they didn't. So the goat was saved. I was like, I don't know. Is that the thing they're going towards?
No idea what the heck they do. Do they?
Why were they doing
Why
that?
are they sacrificing a goat?
Yeah, why were they doing that?
Why do they have so many goats if they only sacrifice one goat for whatever reason?
For whatever, yeah.
And then also
I don't
that
know.
guard that ends up dying.
Ugh.
What a horrible performance.
Yeah.
Like
it was just
like my thing of like, oh, this finale is like very flawed. Is as soon as like Mark is like trying to get through that door, and then like he immediately goes in for a punch, and it's like, actually, sir, you're part of Lumen, and as far as he's concerned, you're still pretty much God. So like you can literally like talk this out, and it's still terrifying.
Yeah.
The idea that you move to punches so quickly actually makes you look not godly and really pathetic.
Yeah.
Which maybe that's something they were going for, but it undercuts a lot of the like untouchability of the Lumen workers. Yeah.
It also just felt unnecessarily dramatic in a very physical way, and you didn't need a physical way. You needed like just like a dramatic like I have the power kind of way.
I don't know. I think it would have been really powerful if Mark ended up needing to go into violence, but the idea that it was him who started it is just like
wild.
Okay, this is.
We lost all credibility here.
It's just so that part is just it feels bad.
Well.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else we super need to touch on. Oh, the field trip episode, really weird. They never super explained what all of those like weird echoes of the workers were. I kind of thought they were gonna say it was those like people on the computer
Desk
on the
people.
testing floor, but they never spelled that out in a way that was clear enough to be like, oh, so
that was
sure.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
And I get what they were going for with trying to show like the outside world sucks, even though they'd already been in the outside world.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, ultimately the ending of that episode is super great.
Yeah, because the whole Irving thing, it's very sad.
But I remember hearing that season 2 drags in the middle, and that the finale is really great.
Yeah.
And at first it was starting, and I was like, I can't imagine how this show slows down. And then that episode happened, and I was like, oh.
That one, and then the Cobell episode, you're like, yeah. And then the finale, you're like, I mean, it was stronger.
The band was fun.
Yeah. The band was really fun.
I loved him like looking for that room, and then, like when he's down there, it's super interesting.
Yeah.
And we see Gemma
the whole
again.
Milchek thing there. Yeah, and then also when he finally gets out, but they're all still blocking him. I loved that. I'm like, yes, teamwork. I knew the band kids would be on your side. I just knew it. They're real ones through and through for the most part.
These people know that they go
Maybe
to work
not
to be
the
a band
trumpets,
kid?
but what? I don't know. Maybe they just wake up and they have like skill in trombone. They're like, I am God on the trombone, and I didn't even know this.
It's interesting.
I don't even know my name, but I know the trombone.
I don't know. It almost feels like I would imagine a world where it's like, you're here to learn this instrument. It's like, I don't know anything. It's like, I know. This is going to be the first thing you learn before you leave this room.
Oh.
Like, I don't know. It's so... I feel
And
like...
were they severed, or were they just,
They're severed because they were talking
Okay.
about, like, you're going to help us because this could be
Right.
you.
Mhm.
Like, you could be
Yeah.
down there and you would want the people
Somebody
in
to
this
help
room
you.
to stand up for you right now.
Yeah.
And it's very real. Like,
Yeah.
and I love
It was a good speech.
the
good speech.
Helly killing it with the speech.
That's the other thing. She does the whole episode. She does so much in order for Mark to be able to get away with Gemma, and then she doesn't follow through with that, and neither does he.
I don't know. I think
don't know.
ultimately to them it was about, to Mark Scout, it's about saving his wife.
Yeah.
To them it's about saving Miss Casey and saving the person that could be them.
Yeah.
And
having, enjoying the last 30 seconds of your life potentially, I guess. But then you're risking the whole objective.
I don't
the
know.
whole mission.
It does just get messy because I love what they're trying to do, for sure.
It's very close to being like really good, and it just doesn't hit like it needs to.
Yeah, it's like if it was
Just
like
leaves you with a really
if
weird
they
feeling.
had like a plan where it's like what I was saying, if they like, oh, we heard rumors of like some group deep in Lumen that like is just like innies living on their own, and it's like we know that that's going to be where they're going.
Yeah. But we have no idea what's going to happen.
What are
after
they
this.
doing? As far as we know, every inch of this place is on camera.
Yeah.
So they can't get away.
Yeah.
And that's why it feels so like you might as well just like be chilling out by the door until someone comes to stop you and then run out the door.
Yep. Because they spent so much time saying there's no escape, there's no happy ending, and then so it makes it feel like, oh, well, 30 seconds more of a happy ending, like. But now you're screwing everybody.
Yeah, and that's ultimately where it comes. Like, if you had, like, Devin or someone in that stairwell ready to, like, get her out of there, then I could see that. And actually, I feel like that would do a lot.
Maybe if we saw Devin waiting with a car, something. Because maybe they were. I don't know. But they didn't show that.
Easily been told.
Yeah.
And
very easily. Like, you just could have shown them waiting while Mark S was going inside. Or have one clip of them looking up at the building, like, nervous. Like, just literally, like, 5 seconds, if that. That's all you needed.
Because Gemma wouldn't know where to go outside to find them. But
no. But, maybe
like,
if they were, like, right at front
if, like,
waiting.
Mark down there is like, she's in the car, she's waiting for us to go.
Yeah.
We just have to get out there.
Oh, yeah, true.
And then that's, like, super easy. She knows if she goes out the stairwell, she can find the car because she's waiting for her. And that would have been better than this.
Yeah. I totally agree.
It's the minor thing, and I
It's
hate when
the
it's like
little
nitpicky things that,
Yeah.
but like it's something you easily could have added to what's like it's a 3-second addition to a scene.
Yeah. And again, season 1 would have done it.
What the ending of this was.
Yeah, season 1 would have gotten that right, and so it's frustrating when season 2 doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know.
So.
I hope this is just a dip in what becomes like a really great trilogy.
Yeah.
And maybe if we someday are able to binge seasons 1, 2, and 3 back to back, maybe it does read really well.
Yeah.
Another thing I don't think we mentioned was going into season 2 right after finishing season 1.
Yeah.
Felt really crazy. Because season 1 was building momentum like crazy up until the last second of that finale. And then it just completely slows down with season 2.
Yeah.
Which, for everyone who was watching it with release, they had a lot of time between the two and needed
and cool down.
more time to like get back into the swing of things. So, and I can forgive it for that, but it was a very interesting thing where it's like, oh my gosh, with that ending, and it's like,
hey, so
remember Severance?
This happened.
Welcome back.
Let's move on. Where are they now? So my stomach's growling. I'm hungry.
I'm also hungry. So, I think that's essentially it.
Yeah.
This is super fun. Super excited to see season 3. I hope they find a really cool idea to keep it going throughout this last season.
Yeah.
The first season is so strong. I have to believe they can. Truly, I have hope.
I have hope.
So
I have purse. Anyways.
So here's hoping. Love to see all of these people again.
Yeah.
They sent in the last season or the finale. They sent off. I forgot the little girl's name again.
Miss Huang.
Miss Huang, Irving, and Mark and
What are you thinking of?
Gemma are off doing whatever.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
it's interesting the playing field we're left on.
Mm-hmm.
So I just really hope
Very
there's a solid
crazy.
pitch for what season 3 looks like and
Yeah.
feels like.
Yeah.
I feel like season 2 lost a little bit of the magic
Mhm.
along the way.
Yeah.
And I think they fumbled with some of the ideas they were trying to display in that finale.
Yeah.
Hopefully with some time and some energy with how much people love the show, they'll be able to push it all together to have a really good next season. Do you think the next season has to be the finale? I kind of really hope it is.
I don't know. I do feel like this show needs to be short, unfortunately, and that's not really like a diss on the show. I just think with what the concept is, it kind of can't go on forever. Because at some point, it's just going to feel like you're doing the same thing over and over again. And there's only so much you can explore. But I do feel like there's plenty to explore for a season 3. I just don't know how they're going to do that, what they're going to explore, and how they're going to connect it all.
Ooh, idea.
It's my biggest
thing.
thing.
So they've talked about how Lumen is like a global thing. Do you think it could be possible that maybe the next season takes place and they're at a different facility? Maybe doing a completely different job. Do you think maybe we could see a spin-off of a completely different Severed Floor?
Maybe.
And maybe see what their perspective is like somewhere else?
Mm-hmm.
There is some
I
potential
wouldn't
there.
be mad about it.
But it needs to have a lot of the heart that season 1 was just so rich with.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. They'd have to have a good pitch, but I'm all ears. So,
yeah. I'll hear anything they want to throw at me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. That's
that
it for
being
me.
said, we love Severance.
Yeah.
Severance,
we really do.
Season 1, perfect. Season 2, promising.
Yeah.
So
It's still there. It's still there.
It's still there.
It's
It's still cooking.
It's still
I'm
solid.
glad they
Yeah,
cooked.
exactly. Exactly.
I'm glad they cooked.
And
I just
I'm
would've had,
glad
a
they're-
little more spice.
Yeah, and that's okay. You win some, you lose some, and that's
And you still won. You still won.
exactly, exactly. So, anyways.
So
yeah.
that being said, Severance, you can watch it on Apple TV Plus.
Apple TV Plus.
Worth it. So
Go
worth
do it, and while you're at it, watch The Studio, which we haven't seen
That's our
that,
next
but
one.
we've also heard
one of our next ones.
wonderful things. So, yeah.
But that being said, I am your host, Luke.
Yes, and I'm your other co-host, any host, Alicia.
And thank you guys so much for watching Not So Straight Nerds.
Bye.